Coming to West Africa, Liberia. It has agreed to accept up to 1,200 deportees from the United States.
Guys, have you heard what is happening between America and Liberia? America is now sending some deportees to Liberia. And before you start to say, okay, so America is sending Liberians back to Liberia now. Wait, that's not exactly what is happening. Some of these people being sent to Liberia are actually from other countries. Yes, you heard me. America is sending people who are being deported from the United States to an African country that isn't necessarily their home. And Liberia has agreed to receive them. Now, if you're hearing this for the first time, let me break it down, because at first I also had questions. So the United States has been looking for countries that are willing to accept certain people who have been removed from America but cannot be sent back to their countries of origin. And Liberia has now entered into an agreement with the US to, receive some of these people. The arrangements could involve up to 1,200 deportees over the next year. And now this is where things really become interesting, because we're not necessarily talking about Liberians. Some of these people are from other countries. So imagine this: you are living in America, and for whatever reason you're ordered to leave the US. You're ordered to leave the United States. Normally, we just expect that, okay, you are going to be sent back to your own country. But instead, you are told, pack your things, you are going to Liberia. A country you may have never visited before, where you may not even have family, where you may not even know anybody. And that is basically what makes this arrangement so unusual. Now, why would Liberia agree to this? Well, the Liberian government has defended the arrangement and said these people will be treated as guests.
Liberia has become the latest African country to agree to receive deportees from the United States as the Trump administration expands its use of third country deportations. On 18th August 2026, Liberia said it would accept up to 1,200 deportees over the next 12 months, with the first 20 expected on Thursday, 20th August. Information Minister Geraldine Meg-Pierre told reporters. And these are not necessarily Liberians. Pierre said the group will include Africans as well as nationals from North America, South America, and the Caribbean. Liberia joins countries including Ghana, Rwanda, Eswatini, South Sudan, Uganda, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, the Central African Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Equatorial Guinea that have entered similar arrangements with Washington. But the response has not been uniform. Nigeria rejected the idea in July 2025, with Foreign Minister Yusuf Tioga pointing to the country's own domestic challenges. And in October 2025, Burkina Faso rejected a US request, calling it unworthy and indecent. So what does Liberia get in return? Liberia says there's no payment or quid pro quo for accepting the deportees. However, the US will provide support to help manage the program and strengthen its migration system. The government has not disclosed the value or precise form of the support. The Trump administration has been sending some migrants to countries other than their own, including people who may have US protection orders preventing their return because they could face persecution or serious harm. Liberia has not said whether any of those arriving have such orders. Pierre says the deportees will be received as guests. They can apply for asylum in Liberia or leave the country whenever they desire. The government describes the arrangement as humanitarian, pointing to Liberia's history of providing refuge. Critics argue that third country deportations can become a loophole, sending migrants to countries where they have no ties and potentially leaving them with little choice but to return to the countries they originally fled. 2 migrants deported by the United States to Eswatini more than a year ago have now returned to their home countries. The Mauritanian national reportedly requested voluntary repatriation to reunite with his family, according to acting government spokesperson Tabile Mdluli. He left Eswatini on August 15th, while the other deportee, a national of the Democratic Republic of Congo, left a day later. The two were among 30 deportees Eswatini accepted from the United States in July 2025 under a $5 million agreement with Washington. The US maintains that the third country deportation arrangements are lawful. For Liberia, the immediate question is how the arrangement will work in practice and what happens to the first 20 people once they arrive.
Coming to West Africa, Liberia, it has agreed to accept up to 1,200 200 deportees from the United States. None of those people are actually from Liberia. They are from other African countries, from the Americas, from the Caribbean, and they are being deported to Liberia, where it is believed that they have said that these people will have the opportunity to apply for asylum within Liberia or indeed move on to other countries. Liberia have also made clear that this is not a quid pro quo situation with the United States. Donald Trump, as we know, has been dumping many third-party deportees on the African continent, and Liberia is now the latest list of countries on the African continent to accept with welcome arms these deportees coming into their country. We have heard from their Minister of Information, who shed a bit more light on this subject. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Liberia intends to accept up to 1,200 persons to be transferred from the United States of America within a year. The persons to be transferred to Liberia are third country nationals, some of whom may wish to seek asylum in Liberia. Honor the agreement or arrangement. Those to be transferred from the United States of America to Liberia will include citizens or nationals of African and Western Hemisphere countries who are medically authorized to travel.
So interesting times ahead, where we're looking at Trump's relationship with the African continent, especially where third-party deportations are concerned. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, I mean, Femi, I don't know, but what's the deal in it for Liberia? How much are they getting? Because
they said it's humanitarian.
No.
Concern is growing in Liberia after the arrival of 20 people deported from the United States. The first on a deal that could bring up to 1,200 third country deportees in Liberia. On the streets, on radio stations, and across social media, critics have questioned why the government should accept third country citizens, with some accusing the government of allowing the country to become a dumping ground for U.S. deportees. Others have raised concern about the country's job security, government resources, and transparency around the issue.
My concern as a Liberian is why these people who are not is deporting out of America, why they not send them to the country instead of Liberia? And Liberia is facing their own challenges.
A big other African country to accept them. And most African countries refuse. The country of Nigeria, Ghana, they are refused. Why Liberia accept them? What our competition? Will the government receive money?
The government say that deportees can seek asylum or leave Liberia.
A new U.S. and African leaders' dirty deal is unfolding. Ladies and gentlemen, America is sending 1,200 radical deportees to Liberia. Liberia is located in West Africa, Atlantic Coast, border to Sierra Leone, border to Ivory Coast, and other countries in West Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, when I'm talking about 1,200 deportees, I mean radical immigrants from North America, from South America, from the Middle East, and from some parts of African countries that have been in U.S. prisons, according to the report available. Donald Trump administration and leaders in Liberia have already agreed for Donald Trump to send these 1,200 radical immigrants that Donald Trump wants to offload away from the United States, and he's about to offload them to Liberia. Now, do you know the reason I said that U.S. and African leaders did deal? Because this deal is like an atomic bomb waiting to explode in future. Yes, when I'm talking about 1,200, I mean radical immigrants from the Middle East, from South America, drug lords that have been in U.S. prisons. This is what is happening. Now, the real story might be what happens behind the scene. Just follow me carefully. Let me explain what is happening here in Africa. Now, Liberia is opening its doors to as much as 1,200 deportees. 20 out of these 1,200 deportees gonna arrive today in Liberia, and others will start arriving later to Liberia. Now the question is, what will Liberia gain from this? Now this agreement is part of Washington's broader efforts to deport migrants in some cases can no longer return back to the countries of their origin. Their leaders rejected them. Now for their countries to reject them, for US to deport them to their countries, this will tell you that these guys are like atomic bomb waiting to explode. They are dangerous. That this is the reason their origin, their countries are rejecting them. So Donald Trump can no longer deport them to their own countries, to Mexico, to Venezuela, because their leaders rejected them. Then US and African leaders negotiated for Washington to deport them to many African countries, both Uganda, both Rwanda, both Eswatini. All of them have already accepted this deal, which US have already deported many of them to some African countries. Not Africans, but people from North America, from South America, from the Middle East. Now, Liberian leadership has rejected the characterization that simply indicate that they agreed on this deal in exchange of cash. Now, according to the president of Liberia, he said he agreed with this deal in order to deepen ties with the United States. Now, here is the question. If United States really want to deepen ties genuinely with Liberia, why should they subdue Liberia to this level, to this dangerous level? Now, for the United States, this agreement provides another alternative for the people Washington no longer wants in United States or in the territory of United States. Now, for Liberia, the potential benefits are diplomatic and economic, but the fully terms of this agreement remains unclear even up till now. And that leaves one question hanging over this deal. Is Liberia gaining a strategic partnership with Washington, or is it taking America's deportation burden at a cost that has not been revealed? What do you think about this, guys? Drop your comments on the comment section. Mind you, not only Liberia, including Rwanda, Eswatini, Uganda, and so many other countries, third-party deportees, I mean radical immigrants that have been in US prison. Now, another question is also, why can't Donald Trump, even if the prisons in the United States have already been filled, why can't Donald Trump build another prison? And again, why can't Donald Trump force the countries, the leaders of those countries that these guys came from, to take back their citizens? Why is Washington trying to impose, to dispose, all these immigrants to Africa?
Now, this is Americans' point of view. The US government wants to remove people who it says have no legal right to remain in the country, and if another country is willing to receive them, then that gives the United States another option. Liberia, meanwhile, is choosing to cooperate, and now the whole world is watching to see how this arrangement develops, because the first group has already arrived, and remember, we are talking about up to 1,200 people. So this isn't just one flight. This could become an ongoing arrangement between Liberia and the United States. And honestly, I think this is one of those stories that raises more questions than answers. Is Liberia doing something smart by working with America? Is this an opportunity for Liberia to receive financial and diplomatic benefits? Or is the country taking on a responsibility that should belong to the United States? And what do you think about America sending people to an African country that isn't necessarily their own? Because personally, that's the part I find most surprising. You can be deported from America and end up in Africa, even though you are not African, and you've never called that African country home. So guys, I want to hear your opinion. If you were Liberia, would you agree to a deal like this? And if you were one of the people being deported, how would you feel about being sent to a country that isn't your own? Let me know what you think, because I have a feeling that this Liberia-US agreement is something we are going to be hearing about a lot more. If you found this video informative, do not forget to like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next one.